All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Take just a quick second and imagine what happens when a massive hurricane-level crisis completely hits your life. Like your stress levels are absolutely through the roof, everything is going wrong, and the pressure is on. Who are you in that exact moment?
Are you the calm eye of the storm? When everyone else is totally losing their minds, do you manage to stay incredibly focused and efficient? Kind of like Levi from Attack on Titan? Or are you maybe a bit more like Usopp from One Piece, where you completely panic and lose your cool over something as minor as, say, your morning toast getting a little too burnt? We all know someone who manages to be that serene eye of the hurricane while the whole world literally falls apart around them. But as we're going to see today, appearances can be incredibly deceiving.
And that brings us to the core concept for today's explainer, comparing the Zen master with the swan. Because, well, not all calm is actually created equal. What looks like perfectly peaceful serenity on the surface can sometimes mask a desperate, frantic struggle underneath. People who appear to be always calm generally fall into two completely different psychological camps. On one side, we have the Zen master, and on the flip side, we have the swan.
Section 1. The True Zen Master.
Let's start with the first camp, the person who has genuinely done the internal work. This genuine calm, think of someone like Aira from Avatar: The Last Airbender, is an active strength. He's seen the absolute worst the world has to offer, yet he's consciously chosen to cultivate peace, because he knows it's actually the most powerful weapon he has. A lot of this traces its roots all the way back to ancient philosophies, like Stoicism. Stoicism is basically this ancient philosophy of focusing on what you can control, which is your reaction, rather than external events. So a modern-day Stoic, they don't waste precious energy panicking or raging about being stuck in terrible traffic. They know they can't change the cars around them, right? So they actively manage the one thing they can control, their own internal response. They aren't unfeeling robots, they just absolutely refuse to be ruled by their feelings.
Because of this specific mindset, true Zen masters possess a remarkably high frustration tolerance. When something goes wrong, they don't immediately view it as a catastrophe. Instead, problems are puzzles, not catastrophes. Now, this isn't magic, it's a learned skill. It might come from having a remarkably calm upbringing, sure, but more often than not, it comes from a conscious, dedicated practice like mindfulness or really digging into philosophy.
Moving on to Section 2, the paddling swan.
This brings us to a much more common and, frankly, a much more toxic version of calm. And trust me, you do not be a swan. Think of a literal swan out on a lake. It looks incredibly graceful and effortless gliding on top of the water, right? But underneath the surface, its little webbed feet are paddling like crazy just to keep moving. For human swans, this performative calm is a highly, highly developed defense mechanism. It's usually forged in the fires of a chaotic childhood. If you grew up in an environment where showing your emotions was dangerous or just completely unpredictable, you learned one survival lesson very, very fast. Being calm kept you safe.
So, I want to challenge you directly right now. Are you ever freaking out inside, but your face is just completely blank? Like, have you ever been in a situation where you are absolutely panicking internally, but you just show nothing? If showing anger provoked a parent or showing sadness meant you were totally ignored, you became an absolute expert at suppressing your feelings. It's exactly like the character Doflamingo from One Piece. He might look calm, but underneath he is a flamingo of pure seething chaos. You aren't actually calm, you're just really, really good at pretending.
Which leads us to Section 3, the price of pretending. Maintaining that illusion of calm? Yeah, it definitely isn't free. When you spend your entire life violently pushing your feelings down into the dark, you basically become a human pressure cooker. There are 3 hidden costs to this: a delayed explosion, emotional numbness, and seeming unempathetic to the people who actually love you. Let's break these down one by one because the mechanics of this are pretty fascinating. First up, the delayed explosion. The human mind is literally like a boiler. You can only suppress so much pressure for so long before the metal finally cracks. Swans often seem perfectly fine for years, and then one random day, something incredibly tiny happens. They lose their car keys, or someone simply cuts them off in traffic, and boom, they have a completely disproportionate, massive meltdown. Everyone around them is shocked. But the truth is, that explosion has been quietly building for a decade. It's like Gaara from Naruto. Eventually, you're going to unleash your own psychological sand coffin on some totally unsuspecting person who just asked to borrow a pen. The second hidden cost is emotional numbness. And here is the really tragic reality of suppressing your emotions. You can't selectively numb just the bad stuff. When you spend your whole life pushing down fear and anger, well, the good feelings get completely muffled too. This leads to a condition called anhedonia. It's basically a state where you feel absolutely no passion or joy for the things you used to love. You just end up feeling like you're watching your own life from the sidelines rather than actually living it.
And in really severe cases, it goes even further into this concept known as alexithymia. This is the very real struggle to identify or describe any emotions at all. Think of a character like Baki Yang-soo from the show Sweet Home. He perfectly represents this complete and total emotional shutdown. It's a desperate survival mechanism that leaves you entirely disconnected from your own internal compass. And that leads right into the third cost, being programmed to solve, not feel. Because you are so highly trained at managing and suppressing your own emotions, you really start to struggle to connect with the messy, unpredictable emotions of other people. Swans often come across as cold or unempathetic. I mean, when a friend is crying, a swan will offer pure logic and try to fix the problem when all the friend really needs is just comfort and a listening ear. And it's not that swans don't care, it's just that their emotional programming is completely hardwired to solve, not to feel.
Section 4. Becoming authentically calm.
Whether you're a natural-born Zen master or a paddling swan, the ultimate goal here is to cultivate a calm that is authentic, not performative. So how do you actually rewire your brain to understand that it is, in fact, safe to feel? Well, we've extracted a brilliant 3-step actionable guide from the source material to help recovering swans safely release that pressure valve. Step 1. Become an emotional scientist. Step 2. Schedule feeling time. And step 3. Find a safe space. Let's walk through these steps together. Step 1 is to remember that feelings are data, not emergencies. You want to become an emotional scientist. Instead of immediately pushing an uncomfortable feeling down, I want you to get a little curious about it. When you feel a flicker of anger or sadness, just pause. Literally say to yourself, that was interesting. Where is that coming from? You don't actually have to act on the feeling, you just have to observe it. Doing this slowly teaches your brain that feelings are just data points, not 5-alarm emergencies.
Step 2. Give yourself permission to feel for 10 minutes a day. I know. It sounds a bit ridiculous to put feel emotions on your Google Calendar, but it seriously works. Give yourself permission to just let your guard down for a few minutes. For some people, this might mean journaling. For others, it's putting on headphones and listening to an emotional playlist, or even watching anime. Just find what helps you feel a little bit. It's like manually opening that pressure valve a tiny fraction just so the boiler doesn't explode later.
Step 3 is to share challenges with a trusted friend, partner, or therapist. You need to find a safe space. Talk to someone you trust and share just a little bit about some challenges you're having. You can give each other feedback, act as accountability partners, and just check in every couple of weeks. And hey, if you can afford it, booking time with a life coach or a therapist is an absolutely incredible avenue for this. When you start doing this, you'll quickly learn a really profound lesson. The world actually doesn't end when you're honest about your struggles.
I absolutely love this quote from our source material today. True calm isn't the absence of emotion, it's the ability to navigate it without capsizing your boat. It's about knowing you can handle a storm because you are no longer terrified of getting a little wet. Your feelings are your compass, they are not your enemy. And learning to read that compass, that's your greatest strength. So, I'll leave you with this final question to really think about. Are you ready to get a little wet in the storm? If you recognized yourself in the swan description today, remember that acknowledging your past emotional neglect is the very first step to unlocking